Good evening. Thank you for joining us on New London Republicans, the party that's looking out for you. Tonight's show is hosted by me, Bill Vogel, and we have a number of things to talk to you about tonight. But I guess before we get started, I think I promised you last week that I would check with you to see if you changed the oil in your lawnmower, and I'm not so sure that you did, but I did. I changed the oil in my lawnmower and also in the snowblower, so I'm ready to go. And guess what? My lawn already, I'm going to have to mow the lawn next week. It's unbelievable. It's growing like a weed. So even though it's been sort of a, sort of a gray, cool day, or gray, cool, pretty much the whole week's has been like this. The grass doesn't seem to care. It just keeps pushing up. So here we go under the new routine. But anyhow, just jumping into just a little bit before we jump into the agenda. One of the things that I think you're all hearing on the news today is about Hillary. It's really, I guess what I'd say, like I said last week, I really feel sorry for the national, the Democratic National Committee, for having to have a candidate, and the only real candidate they have is Hillary at this point. And boy, is she bad. I mean, it not only she just has barely announced that she's running, and she's already into at least her third scandal now. And of course, the scandal today, the scandal du jour, is the fact that the Clinton Foundation was taking all kinds of money from foreign governments and foreign representatives of government. When she was Secretary of State, in coming up with quid pro quos. I can't speak today, but anyway, it looks like it really looks bad. There's a book coming out. I think it's tomorrow. That covers a lot of these issues that have been also reviewed by the New York Times and the Washington Post, as well as Fox News. Tonight on Fox News at 10 o'clock, there's a special to go into just the latest scandal, and I'm sure it'll be in the New York Times and the Washington Post as well. But it's unbelievable. I mean, it's hard to believe that the Clintons could feel like they could take money from foreign governments when she's Secretary of State and for their foundation, which is really just a facade for their huge expense accounts. It's just really unbelievable. Only the Clintons would think they could do that, and still think that she has a chance to be president. Of course, they'll say, well, there's no evidence that she did it. There's only circumstantial evidence, like you can just see the patterns over and over again. And of course, they say there's no evidence. They didn't say she didn't do it. They just said there's no evidence. Well, part of the reason there's no evidence is she wiped out all the emails off her private server that she used when she was Secretary of State. So, I mean, I got to believe that this one is going to penetrate. I don't think her Teflon coating is going to handle this one. I think this one's big enough that there'll be the Democratic National Committee will be forced to come up with some more meaningful candidates to run for president. I think Hillary. What's going to happen is Hillary will bow out by saying that she's got some kind of a sickness or she's got some health issue, and just bow out that way. It will never admit that she did anything wrong along the way. But expect to see that probably within the next month, maybe 2 months, but I don't think Hillary will be around past July 4th. Now, I could be wrong. Part of the equation is that we've talked about before on the show here, is the Democrats, and at the national level, the progressive liberal Democrats believe that the voters aren't smart enough to understand what the heck the Clintons are doing. And in fact, a lot of voters are what might be called low information voters, because they don't read the paper, they don't watch the news on TV, and they're not really tuned in to any current events on the internet. So as a consequence, they have no clue of what's going on. And so, it's hard to say what that kind of a person is going to do. And then you have another group of people that are highly dependent on the government welfare system, and that group will also have cause to vote Democrat, even in spite of the fact that that Hillary's the way she is. But I even think that I just don't think they can pull it off this time. I don't think that these typical Democrat consistent groups that they've sort of divided up and address, I don't think that's going to hold water this time. I think Hillary's got just too much baggage. And that's going to be obvious to anybody and everybody. And the other important point is that the mainstream press, like the New York Times and Washington Post, also are not giving her a pass on this. And so as the mainstream media gears up, I'd say Hillary's days are numbered as a candidate. So we'll see. But let's look at July 4th and see. When we do our show the first week in July, we'll talk about whether or not Hillary's still in the race and see if I'm wrong. I hope that she bows out, because I think the country needs to have a better candidate on the Democrat side than what we got there now. So anyway, let's just jump into the agenda. The first thing I was going to talk to you about is the police chief issue, and I'm flabbergasted about that whole issue. It's so bad that we've gone almost a year of paying the chief's salary while she's on basically paid leave, paid vacation, and it's taken us up until just within the last 2 months to actually do the investigation that was required, and then to have it come out and totally exonerate the chief. It's just incredible. Which that really means that the mayor is at fault. The mayor is the person that caused he single-handedly pulled this whole thing off, and as a result, the city's lost 9 months of salary for a chief of police, and the city's been without a chief of police for that period of time. And not only that, but then because of what the mayor's done, he's given the chief a fantastic lawsuit to bring against the city, and we'll be lucky if we walk away from this one without a major hit on a lawsuit, because of the fact. And the mayor should have known. Remember, he also did an investigation himself. First, he wanted to have the retired FBI guy come in, who was really not appropriate because the guy's 90 years old. And then when the council objected to that, then he had one of the city personnel people actually do an investigation. And he clearly should have got some information from that investigation that would give him a clue as to how the one that finally came out by an independent lawyer turned out. And so it shouldn't have come as a big surprise to the mayor that the chief was going to get exonerated. So the real question comes down to, why did he wait so long to do the investigations? Why did he dump the chief in the first place? Now, as far as the chief's performance, I mean, between the mayor and the chief, they just about wiped out that police department. They lost a third of the policemen in the first couple of years of the mayor's term. And that's a combination of both Chief Ackley, who generated tremendous morale problems. What they did is they cleaned out the management when the mayor first came in, and the chief was part and parcel of that event. So she's responsible, as is the mayor, for the police department going down the toilet. If the mayor had fired her for cause because the police department was falling apart like it was, then he probably would have had a reasonable case. Because nobody can look at a situation where you've lost a third of your policemen and you're looking at a morale that was as bad as it could have gotten. You definitely called for new leadership, and I think he could have justified it. But instead, what he did is he came up with a bunch of little pinpricks, if you will, and I didn't think they would stand up, and they didn't. And so the chief has been exonerated. Now the mayor has he's given himself until April 30th, about a week. And we'll find out what his plan B is. And chances are plan B is going to cost you and me money. So, and so there's a few things here that I'll cover in some detail with you. Initially, this all broke April. I think it was the night of April 20th. It was in the paper April 21st, just this Tuesday, and let's see. It says attorney Kathleen Eldergill said in a report made public late Monday night that I found no evidence to support any wrongdoing on the part of Chief Ackley, and there is no evidence her behavior justified her dismissal. And a statement issued by the city law director, Jeffrey Lonergan, stated that the chief will remain on paid administrative leave and the mayor's prior standing orders to the chief shall remain in full force and effect. And then it goes on to say that Eldergill addressed all the issues that the mayor had come up with and found nothing. Let's see, then of course Ackley's lawyer is, Chief Ackley's lawyer is demanding apology. Let's hope that that's all he's demanding. And it's kind of funny, Erica Richardson had been one of the Dream Team counselors with Mayor Finenzio, but lately she's sounding a whole lot more reasonable and sounding like her own person, which is refreshing to see that, because it doesn't often happen when somebody's not a very good counselor. They usually don't turn into a good one as time goes by. They just stay the way they are. It looks to me like she's improved a lot. What she said here is City Councilor Eric Richardson, who chairs the council's Public Safety Committee, said Tuesday she was not at all surprised by Eldergill's conclusions and agreed that Finenzio owes Ackley an apology. And then she's quoted as saying, "This, right now, has egg all over his face. This is something he pushed for. He pushed for this, saying this is the only way we can get her out," she said. "This may be another nail in the coffin of Mayor Finenzio. It shows poor judgment again on his part." Richardson and other city councilors expressed concern Tuesday that Ackley's position in seeking a settlement or incentive-laden separation package is likely bolstered by the Eldergill's findings. And it goes on to refute the mayor's accusations. And then there's a big editorial that from the day that came out yesterday, and basically what I've never seen it. I haven't seen them write an editorial as scathing as this one. This sounds. I've seen David Collins write stuff like this, but this is on the editorial page, and it's a humdinger. It almost makes me think that Finenzio may decide that running again isn't a good idea for him. But he too, like Hillary, thinks that somehow or another the low information voters won't remember any of this, and will just vote for him because I don't know why. It's not like he's running against a Republican. He's going to be running in a primary against a Democrat. So I don't know why he thinks he'll get the advantage of the low information voter, but he's got paid consultants on his staff, so maybe they have some kind of an idea. But this is a real hit in the head for him. It goes on. It says Mayor Darrell Justin Finenzio has mishandled his relationship with Police Chief Margaret Ackley at every turn. As a result, the city finds itself in a precarious legal position with no options. Instead of having produced grounds for firing, Mayor Finenzio's strategy has handed Chief Ackley a stronger legal position in her ongoing dispute with the city. Somehow the administration has to find a way to settle this and move on. It will likely require the council to swallow hard and pay up. Unfortunately, the price tag will be higher due to the mayor's ineptitude. Voters should remember this fiasco in deciding whether to rehire Mayor Finenzio come election time. Theoretically, the Mayor Finenzio could reinstate Chief Ackley, suspended with pay for nearly 9 months. It's hard to see, however, how she could effectively lead. Mayor Finenzio's actions have undermined her authority, while union leadership appears focused on making her job as difficult as possible. The mayor anticipated the The mayor anticipated the investigation would provide the showing of a just cause required to fire a police chief under Connecticut law. Instead, Attorney Eldergill found no evidence to uphold any of the allegations. It says, recall that when Mayor Finenzio won election in 2011, Chief Ackley was set to retire, having alleged that a counselor had meddled in her department, conspiring with union leadership. An attorney's investigation into this issue, the city seems to have more than its fair share of those, cost $25,000 back then, and a couple years ago, and concluded the actions of the counselor, Michael Bassetto, did not raise to a level that would expose the city to civil damages. Mayor Finenzio has refused to appoint a chief administrative officer as his principal managerial aide with substantial executive and administrative experience, qualification, and knowledge as called for in the charter, convinced that he had all the executive skills necessary. Voters will be the ultimate judge as to how that worked out. So, I mean, there's more meat in here that we don't have time to read, but it would just shock me if after all this, the Day would even think about endorsing Finenzio. Remember, they did endorse him last time when he was running for both the primary and the general election. But this time, and really the truth of the matter is the only reason we got Finenzio was because the Day just thought he was fantastic. They pushed him a year out. A year before the election, they were already saying what a wonderful, articulate gift to New London this new person running for mayor is, and they just gushed all over him, and they made him the strong candidate that he turned out to be, winning the election. And then they pushed him along and endorsed him, and then then we got him. And the reason why that's so upsetting is because there was every reason to think that he was not ready for that job. He didn't know New London. He had never served on the New London City Council. He'd only lived in New London maybe a year. He had no real job. As a lawyer, he had only had 3 cases that he ever argued in court. He was basically an empty suit. That I will say he's articulate in the sense that the first paragraph, the first paragraph is not understood. Let me just say it this way: the first paragraph that he comes out with, it sounds like he knows what he's talking about. The second paragraph, you begin to wonder, and by the third paragraph, you know that you're just getting general BS, if you will. Hello, caller. You're on New London Republicans. Hello, caller.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, very good. Is this Ray?
Yeah.
Oh, well, hi, Ray. Thank you for calling in.
How you been?
Did you have anything in particular you wanted to mention?
What are you talking about?
Well, we're just talking about the Chief Ackley situation.
Oh, I see. No guests,
No, just by myself.
Oh, boy. I'm going to church tonight. I'm going to say a prayer for you.
Thank you. I can always use that. Thank you, Ray.
I'll tell you why.
Okay, bye now.
Want me to tell you why?
Oh, yeah, why?
I like you.
Well, thank you, Ray.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay. So anyway, the Chief Ackley situation really just, I guess that's probably the worst handled situation the mayor has as far as personnel go. But then, of course, we have the other situation where we've had about more than 20% tax increase in his last 3 budgets. And now we're working on the next big increase. He wants to go up 12.5%, which is just unbelievable. He managed to pack the House at the City Council meeting on Monday. It's just, and it will go downhill from there if there isn't some significant backing off. But let's just talk about that budget for a little bit here. Let's see, yeah. First of all, the mayor's budget is asking for a $2.6 million increase. Well, $2.6 million is enough to hire more than 26 people. You could hire probably 30, maybe more people with $26 million. So basically, there's no way the city needs a lot of extra people. And he might argue that, well, a lot of it's not for extra people, it's for maybe materials or something, although he hasn't defined at all what makes it up. He just said it was a steady state, just carry on business as usual type budget, but there's no way that you can say that if it goes up $2.5 million and goes up 6%, because $2.6 million is one heck of a lot of money. And like I said, you could hire probably 30 people or more for that. And there just isn't that need for that much money there's not that much need for that much money for material or personnel. And God knows what he's really looking at. He may be looking at the fact that he's got lawsuits abatch going at him because of the incompetence of he and some of his department heads. And then he also has, this Ackley settlement that probably will end up costing some money. And part of it was the library. He doubled the amount of money he's given the library. But again, he's going up to about $600,000 in the library. Well, that's more than enough to hire 6 more people. Does the library need 6 more people? Or maybe it's for 4 people and $200,000 maybe for books or something. But that's one heck of a lot of money. And yes, you can get longer hours and get more people. And yes, we probably have a library that's not financed as well as some others, but my gosh. Hello, caller, you're New London Republicans.
Hi, Bill. Talking about the budget, I listened to the city council meeting where he spoke to try to justify his increase in taxes, and I wonder how many other people caught a statement that he made that really blew my mind. He said that if the taxes, trying to justify his taxes, if his taxes were too high, then he would leave, and he would do that for the good of New London. And I'm saying, he's basically, what he's telling the rest of us, if you don't like the taxes, move. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to interpret that one. I missed seeing the TV streaming of that meeting, and so I don't know, exactly what he said. But what you're describing there, does it sound like he's talking about leaving if the budget is knocked down by the city council?
No, it's just that he was trying to say that he was making points why it was necessary to increase the taxes and so forth, and if it got too much for him, then he would leave. And he would do it for the good of New London. In other words, if he found out he didn't want to or couldn't pay increase in taxes, then he would leave, and he would do it for the good of the city of New London.
Well, let's hope he does it sooner rather than later. Yeah, no.
So that's it. I'll hang up there.
Okay, thank you. That's I didn't hear that, but that does that. With the way things are piling on Finenzio, it wouldn't surprise me to see him decide that his candidacy is not he doesn't have his candidacy is too weak to survive a primary. So he may well. I mean, it's hard to believe with the paid consultants that he has that he would have ever come in with a 12.5% tax increase. I mean, he must have been tone deaf if he thought people were going to just be happy with that, or they wouldn't care, or they would just go ahead and pay it. I mean, he smashed everybody with a big tax increase last year, and then to come in with an even bigger one this year. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't know how you can be that tone deaf. And clearly, I mean, the justifications that he's provided, it's just hard to see. I went to the city website today, this morning, to see if if they had posted the mayor's municipal budget, and it wasn't up. I called the secretary, and she said it might come up this afternoon, and I didn't have a chance to check it later today. But apparently it's going to go up there, and I'm going to try to look through it and see what the heck, what is he increasing to come up with $2.5 million? I mean, yeah, I'm sure he's got a little overtime, some more time. He's got the library, he's got overtime for the fire department. He may have a couple positions that he's funding in the police department, but right now the police department was funded for about that many people anyway. So it's really hard to see that. So, and then to call it a steady state budget. But then, of course, the Board of Ed budget, which went up also 6%, he said, well, that was for an investment in the children. So he recognized that 6% was a big increase in the Board of Ed, but he tried to say that a 6% increase in the municipal budget was just business as usual. So it's really hard to see how he came up with that. And I'm just glad that he did pack the gallery at the city council meeting, and it sounded like a lot of people were there and very upset. So good for them. The one thing that I am a little bit upset about is that I've heard people talk about the municipal budget, but we're not getting that much discussion with the Board of Ed budget. The Board of Ed budget is a big increase too. It's going up $2.5 million. Again, enough to hire 25 people if there weren't some other things in it, But by and large, probably salaries probably make up somewhere, I would guess, around 80% of the Board of Ed budget. When I was on the Board of Ed in Ledyard, it was about 80%. So I'm pretty sure that's about the same as it is here. And with the other 20% for things like fuel and buses and just the running of the buildings and that kind of thing. But salaries are a big piece of the Board of Ed budget. And to go up $2.5 million is just really hard to see. Now, what the reasons given for that are, one is a 1% increase in the teachers' salaries. Okay, I can see how that would translate to a 1% increase in the Board of Ed budget. And then they said there's an 8% increase in pension cost. Okay, well, that pension costs are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20% of the salary account. And, so in other words, if somebody's paid, for round numbers, let's say these are very high numbers, but somebody is paid $100,000 a year, their pensions would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of 120. Their total cost to the city, including the insurance and pensions and things like that, would be somewhere around $120,000. So basically, when you kind of figure it out, it would be somewhere less than a 2% increase in the overall budget, going up 8% in the pension. So that if you said 2% increase because of pensions, then you could say, okay, then maybe that's a 3% increase in the Board of Ed budget. Then the third thing they mention is we're getting 344 additional students. Well, half of them turn out to be about half of them turn out to be magnet school people. Well, the deal with magnet school is that the people that are coming from out of district, you get their tuition from their district they came from, plus you get $3,000 from the state. So when you figure that out, the $3,000 extra from the state should be enough to cover the increase that you see for the in-district people. So the 344 students, half of which are magnet, should be a wash if what we're being told is true. So basically, you shouldn't see much of an increase at all because of that increase in magnet school kids. Now, one of the things that I looked at is that when you look at the Board of Ed budget, it's let's see, right now they're asking for 40, I think it's 45 million. No, about 44 million for the Board of Ed. Okay, now that's what they're asking for, and that's up $2.5 million. So, but one of the things that you don't think about too often is the fact that the Board of Ed also gets $20 million from grants. $20 million. So their budget really isn't $44 million. It's more like 64, 65 million. And actually, that 20 million, they're increasing that by 7%. So I don't know why they figure they're getting more money in those grants, but the budget includes a 7% increase in the grant tally. And so you're really looking at a lot more than $60,000. A lot more than $60 million for the Board of Ed budget. Well, if you look at the population of the school system is somewhere above, let's say 3,000 plus kids. Well, 3,000 going into 60 million turns out to be like $20,000 per student. Well, $20,000 per student is one heck of an investment. Anybody that says we got to invest in our schools, we got to invest in our youth, this is the future. They're already, we don't need to invest more than $20,000 per student. That's one heck of a lot of money. And, so it's crazy. Now this is what I'm worried about. I suspect, I don't have the exact numbers, but I suspect the tuition for magnet school kids is somewhere around $10,000 or $12,000, and we get $3,000 from the state. So when we have a magnet school kid come in, we are getting like $15,000 maybe. Okay, the numbers might be off a little bit, but if we're paying $20,000 per kid, and we're only getting $15,000 per magnet school kid, it sounds to me like there might be a dirty little secret buried in here that the magnet school situation is not saving us money, but in fact is adding cost to the New London taxpayer, which we were promised that one of the main reasons for going to magnet schools was to help this poor little city cover its education cost. And in fact, if the New London taxpayer is picking up the cost for the magnet school, that's just the opposite of what we should be doing. And I'd like to be proved wrong. I would like somebody to prove that no, the magnet schools are actually, saving us money and because of the out of district kids rather than costing us money. But this 6% number, and one of the main reasons driving it is 344 new students, of which half are magnet school. It looks a lot to me like if they really need 6%, it's because the magnet schools are costing us money. And like I said, I'd like to be proven wrong on that, but nobody's really justified the 6%. They've just said it's these three reasons that I mentioned to you: the 1% teacher raise, the 8% pension increase, and the 344 new students. Well, 344 new students, if there were not a magnet school component to that, that would be that'd be probably about a 10% increase in the number of students that we have, and you would have to hire more teachers to cover more students. So there's no doubt that would be a net cost to the school system. But when you throw in half of them are magnet school kids, tuition's already paid, and then we're supposed to get this $3,000 bonus from the state, you would think that would cover it. That would cover the whole enchilada. So something's not adding up here, and I'm getting tired of people saying, well, this is an investment in our kids. We already have a huge investment in the kids at $20,000 per student. Adding more may not be necessary. Like I said, I could understand a 2 or 3% increase in the Board of Ed budget, but 6% is just, I don't know how you justify it. If your salaries aren't going up, with the Board of Ed, with most of their money being salaries, if you don't see if you're not adding staff, and if you're not if you're not increasing pay significantly, then you can't really justify a big increase in your budget, because your budget is salaries, and they shouldn't be. Basically, you could add at least 25 new teachers with $2.5 million. You can get, and you could probably get more than that. I mean, that's figuring that the cost for each teacher is $100,000. And when they hire new teachers, those teachers with benefits still are not getting $100,000. So you could get a pretty big staff increase for that kind of money. So anyway, let's march along here. And some people, I had one person ask me, well, what's your plan? Well, my plan would be for the Board of Ed to explain why they need 6%. And if this, part of the reason is that the magnet schools are costing us money, I think it'd be fair for them to say so, because it's really hard to see how this is all coming up roses. It's not. Okay. The taxes, like I said, they're going to be, with a 6% increase in the overall budget, you end up with a 12% tax increase, 12.5% tax increase, because your state and federal monies, which make up half of each one of those budgets, are staying the same. And so the entire increase has to be picked up by the taxpayers of New London. So that's why you see a double. If the budget goes up 6%, your taxes go up 12%. That's why it works that way. Okay, now the impact of this is really just startling. I mean, basically, what you have is you're putting people that are, many of which are on fixed incomes, in a really tough spot. I mean, right now, a lot of people that live in New London are on fixed incomes because if they're younger and working, they may not be living in New London. So it's probably a large number of people that are either don't have children or are retired or in some situation where they're on a fixed income. So when you raise the taxes, you really hurt those people because their salaries don't go up. Even people that are working, the salaries aren't going up. Matter of fact, one of the things we'll talk about tonight is the situation in southeastern Connecticut is abysmal as far as the economy is concerned. So people's salaries are not going up, but the taxes are. That hurts a lot of people, and some of people are on the margins and can't hack it. And other people say, well, I'm just not going to live here. I'm not going to, pay these kind of taxes anymore. And so as a result, you see lots and lots of for sale signs around New London, which is, all that's doing is pushing properties down. And the more, and it causes a certain amount of blight too. And a lot of empty homes in New London people don't take care of homes once they leave them often. So that's a bad situation. And then the people don't have the money to keep up their homes when you tax them to death. And then you have situations where even if you want to sell your house, your mortgage is going to be, the amount of money the bank's going to lend you for a mortgage is going to be less the amount of money that you have to pay for property taxes. It figures directly into their equations that they come up and say, okay, you're qualified for this level of mortgage. Well, if people can't buy your house at the price that you want to sell it, then your property values are going to go down. Eventually the house will be sold for a lot less than what you wanted, largely driven by the fact that you have very high property taxes. So it's now one of the things that the magnet school situation is supposed to help that situation by making it more attractive for families to live in New London. But one of the things that you see happening is as we get magnet schools, Groton decides they want magnet schools, and pretty soon Waterford's going to want magnet schools, and pretty soon you're going to have lots of magnet schools. Pretty soon you're going to have a regional system. And I think all in all that would be really great because that means that if a family lives in New London, they can send their kid wherever they want to go. And they don't have to worry about, well, if we go to the New London school system, it's going to be down at the bottom of the barrel in terms of performance. So hopefully, eventually that'll sort out. But boy, I tell you, we got to understand what magnet schools are doing to the taxpayers of New London, because the taxpayers of New London are the very last people that can afford to pay for a Waterford student coming to learn to dance at the art school or something. So we really got to get a handle on that. Okay. The business people were just going crazy. I mean, they're pointing out that the State Street's empty. Bank Street's going to be empty. Hello, caller. You're on New London Republicans.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
You know, the housing market, the way it is today, I don't think we should do that down there at Fort Trumbull right now. You know?
Yeah.
I believe with the parking situation on Pequot Avenue and the electric boat, why don't we just try to do a lease contract with the electric boat and make a parking lot there for the time being? Maybe later on in the future, things will start picking up, and then we could go back to that housing thing. But putting houses down there isn't going to do it.
Yeah.
We got enough empty houses in New London now as it is.
You're right.
And there's more for sale signs going up every day. When my son and I ride around, we see more.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a better idea than putting houses there.
Yeah.
Lease it to the electric boat for so many years or whatever. Get the money out of it, and maybe later on in the future, when the economy picks up, we can talk business then.
Yeah, you make a
Sound
good
like
point.
a good idea?
Yeah, you make a very good point.
Because the people out of Pequot Avenue and all around there, they enjoy something like that too. Give them a little relief so they can park, you know.
Yep. Yeah, no, I hear you. That's
that's
a
all
good
I want
point.
to say. Carry on.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's a very good point. You know, I think what the callers, recognizing the same as we've been talking, with all the properties that are for sale in New London, why would you want to add more housing down at Fort Trumbull, especially apartment housing, when we already have about 70% of non-owner occupied housing? So that's a good point. I mean, I think somebody ought to answer that question as to why we want to add more housing when we already have a lot of housing on the market that's vacant. So, that's another good question. Okay, well, we talked about the businesses and the State Street being, like it is. Some of the quotes from the let's see if I can find it here. Some of the quotes from I know where it is. Are really, at the city council meeting, some of the business people, what they had to say is pretty darn scary. Scott Magruder, who said he owns 5 investment properties, said he's paying about $25,000 taxes annually. He goes on to quote it as saying, "New London already has a huge amount of vacant storefronts," he said. He continually put the tax burden on property owners as a recipe for disaster. People are leaving. And then Charlotte Hennigan, owner of the Thames River Greenery on State Street, said the harsh winter was detrimental to downtown businesses. "Give us a chance to get our heads above water," she said. Hennigan said that the retail business environment downtown has never looked so depressed and desolate, with empty storefronts and blighted properties. "The area clearly has not rebounded from the recession," she said. Frank McLaughlin, who said he has been redeveloping properties in New London for more than a decade, said tax increases lead to higher rents and less upkeep of properties by landlords. "It's a downward spiral," he said. And then Finenzio calls the proposed spending plan a hold steady budget with needed increases in education as the city transitions to all magnet school. This again, I don't know how the mayor justifies his 6%, and I think we just spent a lot of time talking about why the Board of Ed needs their 6%, and they really need to justify that. And if the dirty little secret is that the magnet schools are costing us money, then they need to make the case that the taxpayer in New London should be willing to pay for that in any case. And it's going to be a hard sell. Okay, and well, the good news is that a number of city councilors have said that they intend to really look over the municipal budget, but I would definitely encourage them to push back on the Board of Ed budget too, because this is BS saying that, well, we want to give Manny Rivera a chance to get his feet on the grounds and things like that. First of all, Rivera probably didn't, the budget was probably built before he got here, and he basically spent his time going through it. It just baffles me how people can just accept a 6% increase on the Board of Ed side. That we shouldn't, and they owe us an explanation. Okay, another important factor in this whole business is that the mayor had said he wants to make a referendum date. If the budget is petitioned, people go out and get signatures and petition the two ordinances, the municipal and the Board of Ed budgets, and they get the necessary number of signatures, then it goes to the council, and the council then accepts the petition and then has a choice to either lower the budget or to send it to referendum. And if they send it to referendum, then the referendum should be scheduled in a timely way, like in late July or August. And yes, a referendum will cost a little bit of money for people to have the polls open and stuff, but nothing compared to the kind of money that we're talking about now. And but the mayor said that he wanted to do it during the general election in November. Well, by the time the November election comes around, you're almost halfway into the budget, so your ability to cut the budget becomes very difficult. And not only that, but then there's the city attorney said, well, if you spent more than 25% of your budget, then it automatically goes for whatever was the ordinance that were passed, which doesn't say that in the charter, but that's the interpretation. So by definition, a November referendum would even if it, whether or not the ordinance is passed or failed, the referendum, it wouldn't make any difference because they would have already spent 25% of the budget. So it would be really, really a kick in the head to the taxpayers to try to pull that trick again. That's what the mayor did last year. And and even the New London Day says we need to have a charter revision to fix the budget petition referendum process so that kind of BS doesn't happen again. I'm trying to think of a better word. It's just really bad. Okay, let's talk about the job situation in the state and in southeastern Connecticut. It's sad. The rest of the state's coming along, not that good, but it's coming along. But things are going downhill in New London County. They're actually going downhill. Now, yes, EB is going to help us, but listen to this. The latest labor numbers released Monday saw a round of high fives in the rest of, let me just start again. The latest labor numbers released Monday saw a round of high fives in the rest of the state, but for southeastern Connecticut, the loss of 800 jobs seemed like March Madness without a victory in sight. The state recorded a jobs gain of 4,000 people last month, but the Norwich-New London area reached another post-recession labor low for the second month in a row, according to the monthly State Department of Labor report. When looked at on a year-over-year basis, the news was even worse. The region had 1,100 fewer jobs last month than it had in March of 2014. So, I mean, it's just not good. Last month's unemployment numbers held steady compared with February at 6.4%, but it was a half a percentage improvement from the jobless rate a year earlier. The consultant pointed out that the state is only a little more than 3/4 of the way towards recovering all the jobs lost during the Great Recession. According to the Labor Department, jobs in Connecticut have been returning at a rate of 1,600 a month since the recovery began in February 2010. Despite job gains at Electric Boat and a housing market that appears to be picking up steam, overall economic conditions in the region are keeping employers from investing in new employees, lagging profits at Region's 2 casinos, as well as short-term weakness in the manufacturing sector because of a stronger dollar, could be two of the reasons for this area's downtrend. The region also is fighting the challenges imposed by a state in the bottom fifth of the nation in terms of the overall business climate. So that doesn't speak well for Connecticut and doesn't speak well for our area, so that's not good. And there's another article that basically says the same thing, except this was a little bit earlier and it was looking at February numbers. It said an expanding workforce at the submarine maker Electric Boat has helped ease the pain, but a report late last month by the areadevelopment.com indicated economic conditions in the Norwich, New London area still are among the most challenging in the nation. The region ranked 364th in terms of economic growth out of 379 metropolitan areas nationwide in the website's ranking of urban areas' attractiveness to business as a location. Overall ranking placed the region way down the list for the nation's leading locations at number 285. If these rankings weren't depressing enough, Norwich, New London also has the dubious distinction last month of hitting its post-recession low in employment. And it goes on about that. So I suspect most of you recognize that the area is not doing that well. There is some, in these articles, they do say that they think the area has hit bottom and will be coming out of it. So I think that's maybe the silver lining. And so I'm hoping that that's the case. But again, the state needs to be, the state taxes are too high, the state regulations are too much, utility costs are too high in Connecticut, and then you throw on top of that the devastating property tax situation that we have here in New London. Boy, I mean, talk about a 1-2 punch. So really, it's just absolutely mandatory that the council scrub both the municipal and the Board of Ed budget and see if we can't get those down to where taxpayers aren't packing their bags and leaving. One of the things that could help us is the pilot program. There's a bill in the state legislature that could increase the pilot payments, the payment in lieu of taxes for places like New London, where you have half the property is not taxable. They give you this replacement funding called pilot funds. And it looks like New London may get more pilot funds. So that would be a plus if that passes and could help us. We could also ask Conn College for a little bit more money. They don't give us anything to speak of. And so it would be, you know, they ought to be giving us at least $1 million. But they're not. And then the other thing that's going on is the car tax situation. There's a move afoot to have the state have a flat rate for car taxes across the state, which has some merit because it would lower New London taxpayers' payments on their property. But the bad side of it is the state's taking the money, and then the state can do, you know, play all kinds of games with it. It unfortunately gives them another source of revenue and doesn't guarantee that the money will ever get back to the cities. You know, every time they take money, they end up, they never, with the progressive Democrats that you have in the legislature, costs just keep going up and up and up at a higher rate than any place else in the economy. So anyway, so we'll see. Let's see if we got. I did want to talk about the Clinton situation, but I think you'll probably get a lot of that in the news cycle anyway. And again, at 10 o'clock tonight, there's a special on Fox that'll talk about all the revelations coming out from that book that just is being published. And like I said, I don't think Hillary's going to be able to, I doubt that she's going to be able to stay in the race any more than Finenzio probably is going to be able to stay in the race. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.